really comes from Matthew chapter 25, where Jesus is making known the point saying, you know what? If you want to serve God, then you have to serve other people. Yeah, because what you do for the least of these, you do for me. And in John chapter 13, we see that Jesus demonstrated the full extent of his love, or the love till the end. In John chapter 13, where he got down on his knees, and he, the Son of God, washed the feet of the disciples. And so one of the things that we understand is, if we truly want to love God, we have to be in the serving people business. The Bible makes known that if we don't care about the needs of others, if we don't care about the needs of our brothers, then the love of God is not in us. We make known that we are God's disciples by our love for one another. And so we understand that if we want to glorify God and be disciples and make disciples, we understand we have to serve and love people. Because that brings us back to the two greatest commands that the scriptures teach us: love God and love people. If we do those two things, everything else will follow and align with that. And so in order to help us understand how we're going to go about implementing this vision, we created a framework for the vision. They're not going to be the very specific things that we are going to do, but there are some things that are going to guide us as we make decisions and as we pray and as we plan and as we minister and create our classes for how we're going to go about doing things. I'm going to list 6 things that we're going to do and our church theme for the year. Each year we're going to try to have an annual theme so that we have something that's pushing us in an organized way to help people grow spiritually in an organized, progressing manner, in order to help fulfill this purpose of glorifying God by being disciples and making disciples. 6 of the vision core statements that we're going to focus on, and they're going to be principles that are going to help guide us in this vision. And as we're going to see, they're going to be very biblical. I won't read them all because all the scriptures, because I'm going to do that over the next few weeks, more specifically. But the first one is, we seek to glorify God and grow in a personal relationship with Him. We see it as our individual responsibility and our corporate responsibility to glorify God. And we understand that in order to glorify God, we each have to make the individual decision to do so. We understand that if I want to glorify God, I have to serve Him. If I really want to make the full extent of my relationship with God, then I have to be one who is growing with Him. In John chapter 17, verse 4, Jesus really emphasizes that He has glorified God by doing the work that God has called Him to do. In Mark chapter 12, verse 28 through 31, emphasizes the 2 greatest commandments that Jesus emphasized: love God and love other people. And so one of our core principles is we seek to glorify God and grow in a personal relationship with Him. That emphasizes our spiritual health and our service to God. Our second vision core statement is, we seek to be holy and allow people an opportunity to see Christ in us. This is the realization that God is a holy God and we are a holy community, and that we have chosen to no longer be a part of that which God has saved us from. We don't want to be sinful any longer. But as Dave emphasized in class today, we have to make our teachings consistent, our lives consistent with our teachings. We have to be holy. People don't know God, but our godly living gives people an opportunity to see Christ, one who they've never seen before. A third principle, and we see that from 1 Peter chapter 1, 15 and 16, which talks about being holy as He is holy, and Matthew 5, 13 through 16, which emphasizes being the light of the world and the salt of the earth. Third principle is, we seek to have a biblical unity and a family-oriented love for one another. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1 through 6 emphasizes the fact that we are to have unity, and we are to make every effort to be unified, and He has given us the guidelines and the principles and the doctrines by which unify us. That one Lord, that one baptism, that one hope, and so forth. And we understand from John chapter 13, 34 through 35, that Christ has called us to love one another as He has loved us. The fourth principle that we are going to go over is we seek to have strong Christian homes. We believe that strong Christian homes allows for a healthy congregation. Ephesians chapter 5, 22 through 23, and Ephesians 6, 1 through 4 really emphasize this. And Ephesians chapter 5 really emphasizes how Paul is making an example of how close that Christ and the church really are. But in using that, explaining that, he uses the marriage relationship, because that's the most intimate relationship among human beings that's instituted. And so one of the things that he does in clarifying the relationship between Christ and the church, at the same time he clarifies how men and women ought to respond to one another in the marriage context. And in Ephesians chapter 6, it explains the role of the father, but also the role of the children in being honoring and obeying their parents. The fifth principle that we want us to look at is we seek to share the gospel of Christ to our community. In Matthew chapter 28, 18 through 20, and Mark chapter 16, verse 15 through 16, really are the Great Commission. To go and make disciples. To teach them everything Christ has commanded us to do. Those were the last words of Jesus before he ascended to heaven. You know, famous last words, things you want to say before you depart. That's what Christ said. Go and make disciples. So we have to understand that that's the mission of the church. And the sixth principle that we want to look at is we seek to equip each member for works of ministry. We see this in Ephesians 4, 11 through 16. Understanding that we have our job is to be equipped. It's not the preacher's job. It's not the elder's alone job. It's all of our jobs. And in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 through 10, it emphasizes the fact that we are a holy nation, that we are a royal priesthood, that we're a people belonging to God. We're all purposed to serve God. And so we're going to seek to try to help people grow spiritually, because in order to glorify God, we know we do so by doing the work God has called us to do. And so we want to help equip each member to do the work God has called them to do. And so we understand that these are the principles that are general principles that are going to help guide us in our decisions, to help us go about glorifying God. And we understand that this is really our desire to glorify God by being disciples and making disciples. And in order to help us have an organized way to grow spiritually this year, we have an annual theme that we're going to emphasize, things that we're going to center on around our teaching, our Bible classes, some of the things that we're going to be doing in order to help you be equipped, in order to have a strong family home, in order to help you be evangelistic, so forth. This year's theme is Stronger Together Through Faith and Family. The men decided that those are two areas that we really wanted to emphasize. And so we're going to emphasize that, Stronger Together Through Faith and Family. We're going to emphasize faith a lot. In our Wednesday night classes, the men have organized a natural way to build a set of class schedule to build upon one another. At the beginning of the year, Randy and Steve are going to be teaching on the book of Hebrews, teaching us how to be heroes of faith, learning to build our faith. Then after that, we're going to have a class on learning how to share our faith. And then we're going to have a class on Christian ethics and stewardship, learning how we can live our faith. Learning to be that holy community, living to be godly in an ungodly world. Our Sunday morning, we're going to emphasize learning how to be a family, learning some roles of some of the gender roles in the church, because women are very important to the church, men are important to the church, and God has purposed each to do different things. But then we're also going to hit some subjects such as marriage and Christian singleness and courting and different things like that, because we want to emphasize strong family and strong faith. So one of the things that I want us to understand from all this is that I want you to realize that this is not just a set of slogans. This isn't just something that I want you to realize that we're just doing this and hope it happens. We want to be organized. We want to serve God purposely. We want to help be organized and have a plan so that we don't burn out and to get rid of people being confused as to what we're going to do as a leadership. But I want us to really understand that our goal is not to be a busy church. Not just to have a million different ministries catering to everything. We want to have a simple Christianity, following the simple church, following the simple teachings of Jesus Christ, knowing that doing such things will make a difference. Because that's how Christ made a difference. And our vision statements and our vision statement are going to help us stay on track. You see, our goal here is to help you all grow spiritually and to desire to serve God and actually serve God. Our goal is to encourage 100% participation in this vision. And I'm asking each and every one of you to memorize and accept and buy into this vision and to be a part of it. Because we want to be like the builders of Nehemiah's time. We want to bring glory to God. We want to use our giftedness. We want to be ones who are saying, God, you have chosen to glorify yourself through us, so let us glorify you. And remember, God can do more than we can ask or imagine. Jesus used 12 men of different backgrounds, a fisherman, a tax collector, a religious zealot, one who would take the place of the betrayer. He used these men and he mentored them. He lived with them. He taught them. And guess